Lorenzo and Sigrid express their love for each other, after which he goes to work at his studio where he intensely works on a painting. She soon joins him and expresses her wish not to follow him to meet his friends later on, but Lorenzo is adamant she come as they want to meet her. That evening, the couple make their way to Renato's house, who welcomes his old friend. They are interrupted when Julieta comes out to Lorenzo's surprise. She gives him a warm embrace and peck on the cheek as Sigrid watches on, a little annoyed. The artist introduces her to his wife. Lorenzo was her art professor some years ago. It's also revealed that Julieta and Renato are currently in a relationship as they make their way into the house. Lorenzo informs Renato that he's working on an art collection based on his wife's experiments, but she corrects him that they are studies, as she is a biologist from Denmark who came to finish her doctorate on mollusks and echinoderms. He's helping her build a lab in their basement. Renato notices that the couple is drinking water and pries too deep, speculating that she's pregnant. They confirm that they are trying for a baby. Renato makes a toast to his old friend's return to the art world and hopes that she becomes pregnant. Julieta and Lorenzo later make their way through the house to pick up Sigrid's coat and bag. He's happy to see that they have one of his pieces on their wall. They have their little catch-up, where it is revealed that she is a lawyer, and she too is trying for a baby with Renato, which is why he was so intense earlier. The conversation moves when she asks about his daughters. However, he alerts her that he doesn't see them anymore as their mother sent them to Canada. Sigrid interrupts their conversation, eager to go home. At a later date, Renato makes a few arrangements for his old friend and has managed to get Lorenzo to show some of his work at a gallery, but the turnout is not fantastic. Sigrid still supports by making Danish snacks for the event. Julieta passes by and apologizes for Renato's lateness, as he is closing some business with some other art collectors. The old student and teacher walk through the gallery flirting a little, where it is revealed that they had a romantic relationship in the past. They are interrupted when one of the servants alerts him that his wife needs him. He goes to the back where she informs him that she's pregnant, and it has been so for the past few weeks. Although he's happy, Lorenzo wonders why she didn't tell him earlier. The couple later make their way to a doctor for an ultrasound check, where Sigrid informs him that they are having the baby at home because she feels like it's safer as hospitals have viruses. After the checkup, the doctor advises that they run some more routine tests. She reports that she has a problem with her blood clotting, probably caused by a gene mutation, which could cause complications. The doctor is surprised and asks to know if she too is a doctor, but she alerts him that she's a biologist and has already done all the tests herself, as no one wanted to do them this early. She advises the doctor to get her on some medication, but he alerts her that only after she goes to see the specialist. She complains that it will take too long, she has already had a miscarriage and doesn't want another. Sigrid leaves the office a little annoyed. The doctor offers to tell Lorenzo the gender of the child, but he already knows it's a boy since it's the third specialist they have seen. He tries to assure her that everything will be fine during the car ride home, but she snaps at him before apologizing. The artist just alerts her that they need to get someone to assist with the birth at home, to which she agrees. A couple of months have passed and Sigrid is further along with her pregnancy. She complains to Lorenzo that the smell of his paint is making her feel sick. He apologizes and moves his things to the attic. While up there, he looks down to see that she's self-administering some medication he's not aware of. He keeps a gun up there, so he uses the scope to get a closer look at what she's doing. After confirming his suspicions, he goes down to confront her about it, but she's low-key arrogant, so she dismisses his concerns. He later takes his mind off things by painting his son's room, but cuts his hand while trying to open a can of paint. Lorenzo goes down to tend to his cut, and is met by an old lady speaking Norwegian. His wife introduces her as Gudrun. She helped deliver Sigrid, and was also her nanny growing up. She explains that the old lady will stay with them and help with the delivery, but he doesn't seem comfortable with that idea. Sigrid directs him to her lab where there is a disinfectant and a bandage for him to use. He enters, and is a little disturbed by the research she's doing on embryology, as that is not her field. As time goes on, he feels left out as Sigrid and Gudrun speak in their native tongue, while he sits there oblivious. The artist even struggles to eat their food. Lorenzo excuses himself to bed, but on the way, he checks his son's room to see that it has been repainted and arranged. He comes back down to confront his wife about it, but she says that is what Gudrun recommended, as babies don't like vibrant spaces. He doesn't argue back and goes to sleep. His wife joins him in bed soon after as a storm rages on outside. Lorenzo wakes up later on in the night and realizes Sigrid is not in bed. He makes his way to the bathroom where he hears her screaming. She's in labor, and they have locked the door to prevent the artist from having access. He calls for them to open it as he listens to his wife's cries. Lorenzo ends up sleeping at the door, and the following morning Gudrun opens for him to meet his son. He doesn't comment on the injustice they have just inflicted on him by locking him from witnessing his own child's birth. The artist just savors the moment with his new offspring. A few months have passed since Henrik was born. Giulietta and Renato have come around for the first time since his birth. They joke around about how they have kept the child hidden. The couple give him a gift for the child which Lorenzo appreciates, but he comments about Sigrid's strict rules about Henrik's clothes being 100% cotton with no loud colors. He puts sanitizer on their hands as he prepares to have them meet this new arrival. The couple wait a while to meet him. They start to get fed up waiting and alert Lorenzo that they can come back another time. But he's adamant that they should stay and meet him. He confesses that it's been over 6 months, and neither the mother or the baby has left the room. She and Gudrun are the boy's doctors. They diagnose and treat him inside the room. He barely gets to hold his son. They only allow him 4 opportunities to interact with him, and that's on a good day. The couple look at him like he's a bit unhinged and promise to come back when the tension dies down. They worriedly look at him as he begs them to stay, while he goes back in to bring them out. The artist finally comes out with Sigrid and the baby, and everything looks normal as the little one sleeps. They inform her of the gift, and Lorenzo comments on it not being 100% cotton, but Sigrid behaves like it's not a problem, and thanks them for the gift. This is the opposite response they were expecting based on Lorenzo's accusations, making them doubt him more. He later gets agitated when Henrik is crying too much, so he goes into the room suspecting that he has a fever, but Sigrid gets angry at his presence and tells him to leave. As the days go on, the boy's crying doesn't stop. Lorenzo gets frustrated and storms into the baby's room to take him. The nanny protests in Norwegian, but the dad ignores her. As he prepares to leave, Sigrid enters the house and tries to take her son back, but he pushes her to the floor and rushes the kid to a hospital. The doctor checks him and alerts Lorenzo that it's only a mild fever, so the kid should be fine with rest. He returns home, and the police are at the scene. Sigrid takes him inside, but the artist is prevented from entering because his wife has pressed home fighting charges against him. Later that night, he turns up at his old friend's house drunk, so they give him a place to sleep. The following morning, Giulietta informs him that she went to the court on his behalf. He has a 90-day restraining order, and his wife also filed for divorce. Lorenzo protests his innocence, but the evidence is stacked against him, even though he too has wounds from Sigrid's assault. In the eyes of the judge, his wife is a woman with a doctorate who is self-sufficient, while he's a struggling artist with a history of drinking, who couldn't keep a relationship with his daughters. He must wait for the 90 days before anything can be done. The couple give him a room to stay in till the time reaches, and after a long wait, he finally gets the opportunity to visit his son at home. He arrives there after so long away, but he notices some strange vents outside before proceeding to the front door. Gudrun opens the door for him to enter, and his son sits in one of the rooms playing, but Sigrid is nowhere to be found. He greets Henrik and gives him a toy he handmade, but when he looks at his son, Lorenzo's face turns to dread as he comes to the realization that the kid sitting there is not his seed. The artist starts to panic as he shouts around the house looking for Henrik and Sigrid. Gudrun quickly grabs the phone and makes a call. After finding no sign of his family, he tries to pry open the lab door as sirens can be heard outside. The police enter the house and apprehend Lorenzo, breaking his glasses in the process. They send him to jail, and later on, an annoyed Giulietta comes to bail him out as he pleads for help. They lead them to a room where she warns him not to talk anymore because he sounds crazy with the statements that he's making. They go to the hearing, and Lorenzo starts with his accusations that the boy he saw was not his son as he begins to get agitated. Reports from the social worker and pediatrician indicated that his son is a normal child, which makes his outbursts all the stranger, so the judge suggests that he gets taken into a psychiatric hospital for diagnosis. After being subject to treatment for a while, Giulietta and Renato come to get an update on his condition. The doctor diagnoses him with Capgras syndrome, which led him to think that his child has been exchanged for an identical imposter. After a debrief, they release him under the supervision of the couple. Giulietta informs him in the car that he has been released on probation as long as he keeps going for treatment and stays away from the house, or he'll be going straight to jail. He only cares about his son who's in danger. Giulietta tries to sympathize, but he takes a cheap shot at her, stating that she wouldn't understand because she's not a mother. This cuts deep for the reason that she is having problems conceiving. She retaliates by quitting as his attorney. Renato brings him into his new apartment. Some of his belongings are already there for him, and he gives him his medication and car keys. He finally confronts him about his statement earlier. Lorenzo immediately apologizes, but Renato lets him know that he's on his own from now on. Soon after, he tracks Gudrun as she takes the imposter to the kindergarten. He tries to see that kid, but the teacher sacks him away. He keeps his distance for a while till he receives a letter about the case. He marches over to Giulietta's office with one of his paintings as payment for everything she has done for him. With that gesture, he is back on her good side, so the artist takes the opportunity to formally apologize to her. He asks about her treatment to aid with the reproduction, but she alerts him that they are planning to adopt. He shows her the letter he received. It states that Sigrid would like Lorenzo to have contact with his son, as she feels like he's not a threat to him. The artist wants Giulietta to represent him again for the negotiations, and she agrees. The day of the meeting arrives, and the talks almost break down when Sigrid demands that Henrik be allowed to leave the country to visit extended family. He is reluctant to sign, but he concedes and demands he sees his son the following day. He comes to pick him up with Giulietta. They make their way to the couple's house where Lorenzo makes them the official godparents of Henrik. He excuses himself to use the washroom while they play with him. He sneaks out of the bathroom window and makes his way back to his old home. The artist climbs his way into the house through the attic and quickly makes his way into the lab while Sigrid and Gudrun converse in another room. Inside the lab, he sees signs that a baby has been kept in there but is confirmed when he hears a baby's cry. Lorenzo checks and is happy to see that it's his son. Meanwhile, Sigrid sneaks up behind him. She cocks the rifle, which catches his attention. When he turns around, he finds that she's holding him at gunpoint. All the while, the couple notice that Lorenzo has been in the toilet for too long, so they go to check on him. They realize that he has escaped when they get no response. The two make their way to his apartment and find no sign of him, just drawings of his trying to piece together his son's real face. They try his phone, but there is no answer. Later that evening, they make their way to his old house to alert Sigrid of Lorenzo's disappearance. When they knock on the door, there is no answer. Renato notices Lorenzo's car, so Giulietta tries calling his number one last time. When she hears it ringing from the lab, she decides to throw a rock at the window so that she can see inside. What she sees in there deeply upsets her. Soon after, the police are at the house. They break in to find the artist laying there offed. Sigrid shot him and has fled the country. Giulietta cries in the car as her husband drives off with the child in their custody. 2 years later, the couple decide to go to Norway on a family holiday when Giulietta spots Gudrun. She tails her to her house where she sees Sigrid. They make their way inside, allowing her to get closer. She notices the same filter at the house basement and hears a child's voice. She decides to peep through. The look of horror is plastered all over her face when she realizes that Lorenzo was right, which brings the movie to an end.